Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to the Bankology Cannabis Society's first educational session. But before I get into that, let me introduce myself. I am Dr. Tanya Lowe, founder of Bankology and the Bankology Cannabis Society. We are a membership-based educational wellness community where we educate people on the uses of cannabis, specifically CBD, for people who have issues with pain, anxiety, and sleep. We also have an amazing product line of premium products that I'll share with you a little later. But first, tonight's showcase, we are so honored to have one of our members, one of our founding members, come talk to us tonight about how to talk to your doctor about using cannabis, how to talk to your doctor about using CBD. So tonight we have Dr. Jarret Patton, and I'm going to bring him in right now. Hey, Dr. Jarret, welcome.
Hey, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Lowe. Thank you for having me here today. I am just happy to be here and talking about cannabis with my fellow Bangology members.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you here. So, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about who you are and a little teaser about what you're going to talk about tonight?
All right. Well, great. I am Dr. Jarret Patton. I'm a board certified pediatrician. I am also a narrator in a film that you may have heard of, Us versus the Plant. It's a docufilm about cannabis, but I have spent a lot of time just learning more about the plant, how it affects people medically. And I can't wait to share with you guys today a few things about kind of that bipolar nature of the medical community. Sometimes they're warm and fuzzy, sometimes they're cold. And I want to help you guys navigate through the medical system tonight.
Wow, thank you. We want you to tell us everything. Don't leave anything out. So, without further ado, Dr. Jarret Patton.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for having me. I am so excited that we can be together, that we can have some fun, and maybe we can learn a little bit from each other. And that's what I want to do with you guys today as we talk a little bit more about just the medical community and how you may approach having conversations with your doctor. Because as you know, cannabis is a medication and it can be used for a number of different ailments and things to help make you feel better. And you need to have a strategy to work with your physician. So today, although we think our healthcare system has lots of standardization, well, it doesn't. It has a lot of variability within the system. And so we'll talk about why some doctors don't know much about cannabis, and you'll also understand how to approach your physician for alternative therapies, including cannabis. And if you like to use cannabis, use it unapologetically. So we're going to start by telling you a little bit more about me and why I became an authority on cannabis usage. And when you talk about this boy in this picture, he kind of dreamed of being a truck driver when he was young. He wanted to ride around on his bike and thought that being in a truck and driving on 18 wheels was the thing for him. And so when he went home to his parents and said, "Hey, mom and dad, I want to be a truck driver," they just said, "Well, okay, if that's what you want to do, we'll support you. You can do that." And that was the end of the discussion. As time went on, though, I learned a lot more about science, and I knew that just maybe driving a truck would be fun, but I started to get myself towards learning more about medicine and more about the human body. So I went off to college and studied at Xavier University of Louisiana, went off to Case Western Medical School in Cleveland for 4 more years, and then off to NYU and Bellevue, where I studied pediatrics and became a pediatrician. And so it was at that time that I really knew that I wanted to be in pediatrics. And there was one moment in particular that I like to show in this picture where I was a medical student and I traveled to Ghana in an international health elective. So I got to fly out of out of the country. So I left out of Philadelphia, landed in Amsterdam in the Netherlands, had an 8-hour layover where, as you may know something about the Netherlands, they've been open to cannabis and therapy for a very long time. But back then I didn't really know much about it. Off to Ghana I go, hang out with a bunch of kids, and I was so much taller than them, I would always tell them I played for the Sixers. So we were posing for this picture. But after that, I went off to do some medical leadership. I ran clinics. I became division chief, and I ultimately became the president of the medical staff, overseeing 1,500 doctors in an 8-hospital system. So I really got to know and manage lots of people, lots of doctors. And things were going great. I thought I was really at the peak of my career. And what I found is that I was able to take care of the Smith family and the Jones family and the Enriquez family, and things would be just wonderful. I'd also be able to change policy that made changes for the masses. And this was incredible. And everything seemed like it was okay until one day I started talking to one of the hospital attorneys I frequently met with, where he showed me some Facebook pictures on his laptop and said, "Jarret, I have to show you something. You're not going to believe this." And when he showed these posts that were just talking about all types of things that just weren't true about me, I said, "I'm not even on Facebook. I don't know how this began." And he said, "Well, this woman who has this complaint against you, she's going to the police." And I said, I couldn't believe it. And next thing I know, I had the cold steel handcuffs crushing the bones in my wrist as I was led off into a paddy wagon, sitting in this steel box, looking at the blood-stained floor and wondering what happened to my life. So I had to spend the next 18 months of my life fighting for trying to prove my innocence and prove to everybody that none of this happened and it was all a hoax. So I had my day in court where the woman who was accusing me of all these things and her friend, who was the character witness, were testifying under oath. And when the friend was asked, "How did you guys know each other? You've known each other for a long time." "Yeah, we've known each other for over 13 years. Where did you meet?" "We met in jail." The jury started rolling their eyes. They started folding their arms. They were wondering, what in the world is going on? And why am I wasting a week of my life for this? And it was clear at that point that this was all a hoax. It was a scheme for money. And the jury confirmed my innocence, and I went on my way. And as tough as that period of time in my life was, it came at some good things. And it allowed me to publish a #1 book series, best-selling book series, as well as an award-winning book and License to Live. And that's where I started business in my own way. But that led to me doing lots of things in the media. I'd be on radio, I'd be on TV, I'd be talking on a lot of things and featured across the media all across the nation. And one of the things that I realized while I was going through this, we all have to go through a storm at some point in our life. And when we get to that storm, it will pass. It will eventually pass. And I know a lot of you guys have been caught in the middle of a hurricane, and Sally just came ashore, and you may be feeling like, hey, the storm was very tough and it's been very devastating. But it will pass, and we will get through this, just like we'll get through this pandemic. So why? What does all of this have to do with cannabis? Well, during that time in which I was going through the trial, I couldn't find a job. I had lost all my medical licenses. I had lost everything that I worked so hard for while I was going through this 18-month period of the trial. There were days where I'd send my kids off to school and I'd sit around and try to figure out something to do, or maybe do some chores around the house as my wife was off to work. And And I said, there were sometimes I was down, and a friend said, hey, you should try CBD. CBD will put you in a just kind of an even mood. So as you go through your day and you try some things. And I said, well, I don't know much about it, but I'll give it a shot. And I tried a CBD tincture, and I did feel that I was able to focus and was able to do a lot more with my life that I didn't think I was able to. And that's when I really wanted to look into cannabis and what cannabis plant is and what was so bad about cannabis and hemp and marijuana that people just couldn't understand. And I started going through research after research and understanding that the reason why it is treated as medicine in many parts of the country is that, well, it is a medicine. We all have this endocannabinoid system that receives these substances, and that actually helps treat a number of conditions. And I've seen it work in many people and many of the patients in my practice in Pennsylvania. And of course, it led us to the production of this movie. And maybe some of you guys have seen it, but Us versus the Plant is a documentary. The media company wanted to cast for a physician. They wanted to cast somebody that was credible. And it happened to be that I knew some things about cannabis. So they said, hey, would you be the narrator in our film? So that storm I talked about in my life led to things that were unimaginable in my life anytime before. But we're here to talk about the bipolar nature of the medical community. And we talk about a lot of things around physicians and healthcare providers. And we'll start talking about just kind of where we're talking about intelligence. And doctors, they actually do a good job. They have lots of things that they're good for, and they are specialists. They know the material that they're supposed to know. But the problem is things change over time, and they're expected to know everything. So what they learned yesterday may not be what they learned today. And if they don't know something, a lot of times they don't know how to admit they don't know and just simply say, I don't know. And they may feel some kind of way if you come up asking about the use of CBD for something in your life. So let me tell you another story. The guy in this picture is Jerry Greenfield. That's Jerry Greenfield, the Jerry of Ben and Jerry's ice cream. That's why he's handing me a cup of salted caramel core ice cream. And this guy seemed to be a very intelligent individual. In fact, he told me that he wanted to go into medical school, and he sent off applications to 20 medical schools, and he got rejected 20 different times. And so then he didn't know what to do when his friend Ben, who wasn't as serious of a student as Jerry, said, oh, let's just go make some ice cream. He said, well, we don't even know how to make ice cream. And he said, well, we can just do it. We can buy a truck and blah, blah, blah. The story goes on. And he said, so he took a $5 course at Penn State University to learn how to make ice cream. And the rest is history. Smart guy. He's the most intelligent guy in that picture for sure. But when we talk about intelligence, and it's in a broad category because there's the IQ, there's the EQ, there's all different types of quotients, and people in their lives should strive for balance. And so, you know, if you may be strong in one area, you may not be as strong in the other. But often when one is really high, others may not be so. So that's why we all work together in teams. That's why our bodies need a whole variety of components to keep them working to try to stay in balance. And another very intelligent person I met is Walter O'Brien. So if any of you guys are Scorpion fans, Walter O'Brien is literally maybe one of the most, or if not the most intelligent person in the world, because he's somebody that literally tested off the charts with his IQ. And this TV show is about his real life, where he gathered a group of people that were highly intelligent and had different strengths in different areas, and they were able to do something spectacular, and they maybe solve some crimes or maybe do something great. And he told me, you know, it was really tough. But when you get that balance and you get that variety in life, that's what really makes things work. So I kept those words to us. So besides having someone who really is supposed to know a lot about everything, cannabis science is emerging and it's constantly changing. Many people didn't even know anything about cannabis because it wasn't even a subject. There was always talk about the cardiac system and the pulmonary system and your skin, but there was never a discussion or even a mention of the endocannabinoid system. And since there was little to know, many people that are out there in practice, they may have their own biases or opinions stored away that really don't keep up with the science that we know today. So that blue book on the right of your screen is one of the books that I had in my medical school. And the book is probably this big, and it goes over conditions, all different types of conditions in the human body. So I looked up the section in that book about where does marijuana fall in this. And because really I went to marijuana because there was no discussion at all of CBD. Marijuana had about 3 paragraphs. They talked about how people consume it in different communities. They said it's probably not good for you. And there was some reference to maybe being a gateway drug to other drugs. Then they talked about the next drug, which was like PCP or something. So there was very limited knowledge that people even understood this. And as you see on this chart in the middle, in the late 80s, all the way maybe through the 2000s and today, people weren't figuring out anything about cannabis. So this is how recent of a science we're really talking about. Another problem gets into legislation. And I happened to be at a recent lunch in Atlanta at CNN Center earlier this year and got to have lunch with Dr. Jocelyn Elders. And she was the 15th Surgeon General of the U.S. She actually worked under President Bill Clinton and told me a lot of good stories. And she grew up in Arkansas, and she made her way from literally the cotton fields all the way to the highest office for any physician in the nation, which was incredible. But even her, who has been long retired, she doesn't practice, she keeps up with the science, and she knows that there is room for CBD, and it certainly should be used as a medication, and probably the cannabis sativa or marijuana should be used as a medication too, because the science is proving that. So we have a long way to go, but we're going to get there. But legislation changes all the time, and it varies state by state. So if people are in different areas of the state or different areas of the country where you're near a bunch of states, the doctors don't keep up with all of that stuff. And so they don't know what's going, they may know, hey, it's not legal here or it is legal here, but I don't have the certification or ability to help anybody. So there are very few services around cannabis and learning about cannabis in the first place. And as you can see by this map, there are different areas where in the dark green, you see that it's completely legal. If it's a light gray color, it's completely illegal, including CBD in some cases. And then there's a variety of what you can use medically, what you can't use medically, and furthermore. So it is so many things that are there, and who can keep up with that? Because the ones that have Stripe have some sort of legislation coming up for maybe a vote or something in their state legislature. So it is incredibly hard to keep up with these things. So people aren't sure what to do with their staffs or in their offices because, well, what do people need to know? And what do I need to know? And what do we need to do? And so, again, cannabis comes into healthcare and becomes another healthcare disruption, which makes it difficult for people to stand up. So when I had a chance to meet Martha Stewart, we talked a lot because that she had a rough time in her career which she ended up having to go off TV and off air for a while. And guess what? After all this time, Martha has her own CBD line now. And so so you need to just figure out some things as you're going through, which is why you're in Bangology in the first place. You are here to learn, and you're here to learn more about cannabis, CBD, what it can do for your body. And that way you're not caught up with all the noise and knowing what's going on with everyone else out there. So what can you do? Well, the first thing you should do is be your best advocate. If you're running into roadblocks, what you should do is just ask questions. Have that relationship with your primary care doc and just say, hey, look, I have maybe some arthritis and I'm having some pain, or maybe I'm having some areas in another area. But hey, look, just ask some questions. And when you can ask those questions, that will help kind of get you going. Don't be afraid to provide information and talk about the ailments, talk about specifically what you are using and why you learned about it and what you learned about it. Because if you have a doctor who will really listen to you, they'll learn from you. And most doctors should learn from every patient they have. And it's what makes you become a better doctor. So when you're having that relationship, provide the information. Don't be shy and form that partnership, because even if your doctor doesn't know about it, they may be able to get someone or know somebody that can help you understand. So always, you may have a little bit of approach of skepticism sometimes and saying, well, do you really know something? Do you not? Because, well, the doc may not know much, but ask those questions, form that partnership, have those relationships, and you'll be able to find that thing that you wanted. At another recent event, this is me and Dr. Drew Pinsky, and it was great because we both were speaking, at this conference, and well, during this COVID era, as you can see, well, the doctors had to screen each other for COVID and take their temperatures and all this kind of stuff. I said, hey, why don't we stop for a selfie, Dr. Drew? And as we were talking, though, he always talked about following the science and understanding the science and knowing what that science gives us. And specifically with the science of cannabis and CBD, he's all for it because he knows there is something out there. There's something out there that's going to make life better for so many people. And I've seen it and he's seen it. And I just want you guys to know that while you're in here, the more you learn about CBD, the more you learn about cannabis in general, the better it really could be in your life. So I wanted to make sure you guys have that. I always offer my slides out to anybody who wants them. All you have to do is text Dr. Jarret to 44222, and I'll send you the copy of the slides today. But I will stop sharing my screen and wanted to just continue to let you guys know that you should have this relationship with your doctor. You should have this conversation because it can be life-changing. It can be something that will make your day. It will be something that will make your world turn around. And I've seen it in my own life. I've seen it in many others. And I want to encourage you guys to continue to learn, continue to do things that will help you in this place. And then your life will be better. So I will be happy to take any comments that we have in here, and giving shouts out to a bunch of you guys that are in here. All right, you guys are in the house. So thank you guys for allowing me this little bit of time to tell a couple stories. But I want you guys to be able to do what you can do. Because life is going to be better.
Dr. Jarret, thank you so much for sharing your story, your experiences with us. I have some questions that have come in. I'm managing two screens here, so I've got some questions that have come in. First of all, I love how you started out by talking about your story, your personal story, and the way you transitioned from one place to where you are today, repurposing your life. And as you were telling that story, I was thinking, CBD has done that for so many people that I know, right? It's like I personally know people who have struggled with medication, they struggle with back pain, struggle with so many things, and they use CBD in secret. And so not only can, if you're struggling with your business, your personal life, your professional life, your health, here's an opportunity, here's a living story where you can repurpose and refocus your life today. So I thank you for sharing that. I love Dr. Drew. I had an opportunity to meet Dr. Drew and talk with him several years back. So I know that he is a big follow the science person. And so I'll just kind of jump right on to it, that because CBD, and we've talked before about how cannabis is, it's not like it's the new kid on the block, I mean, the government has a patent. Is it one patent or two patents?
Right. Just locking it all up.
Yeah, so it's not like it's the new kid on the block. So I guess the first question that came in was that people want to know is CBD legal to use medically?
It depends on the state and the state in which you live. And that's one of the challenging things. Although there's been federal legislation back in 2018 that allowed the hemp farm bill to go, which allowed farmers to farm hemp, and they took away the federal ban on doing this. But there's still some states that, well, didn't want to go along with that. And they still kept laws on their books that prohibit using CBD in any form. So there are some states that don't care, and you can find it in any gas station, grocery store, some guy selling on the corner. It doesn't matter. It's everywhere. There are other states that if you try to open up a shop, or you even bring CBD across state lines, that's considered a crime. So it makes it very difficult. So you really have to research the laws in your state.
Right. And also, that is a good question. If you are considering, someone just typed in the chat, my orthopedist gave me a sample to use this morning. I think we have to talk about, many people think about, as soon as you say CBD, as soon as you say cannabis, the first thought is marijuana. So let's kind of back up a little bit and do a little education. When you think about the marijuana leaf, that marijuana leaf, guys, the marijuana and or hemp leaf is made up of hundreds of cannabinoids. THC is only one of them. So you've got THC, you've got CBD, you've got CBG, you've got CBN, you've got THCA, you've got so many different ones. And so many people tend to only be familiar with THC, but when you learn and you understand about, wait a minute, there's something else in that leaf that I can pull out and that can be used to help my pain, help my anxiety, help my stress, help me sleep better, then that's when, we need to sit up and really pay attention to taking responsibility for our lives. I can remember I had my 6-month checkup a few months ago, and here it is, almost 6 months ago, I started this cannabis business, and I was nervous about mentioning to my doctor, hey, I'm taking CBD. And so we have to feel empowered to have that conversation with our doctor. We have to feel empowered to say, hey, I'm taking CBD, whether it's gummies or a tincture or a rub, so that they can monitor that and make sure that it does not interfere with current medications. Would you agree, Dr. Jarret?
Absolutely. And this is why having that relationship with your physician is so important, because just as all these cannabinoids and CBD that are available, or CBD or cannabinoids in general, just because you think it's safe or just because it's over the counter, all medications can have side effects or interactions, which
Right.
is why any vitamin, supplement, anything you're taking, you should really contact your doctor, because it can interfere with other medications you may be taking too. So it's absolutely essential that, although you may not feel comfortable talking about it with your doctor, practice, and make sure you mention it to him, because it could make a difference in your life.
And so, if you're a member of Bangology, if you go to the members section on our website, you can have, there is a download where you can take some questions with you to have that conversation with your doctor, If you're not a member of the Bangology Cannabis Society, we might make that available to you, and we'll put a link here in this broadcast. Dr. Jarret, I think now is a good time for me to do a little commercial. So, hey guys, if you're watching this,
Perfect.
you're not a member of Bangology or the Bangology community, go ahead, subscribe to this channel, like us on all social media, Facebook Bangology, Instagram Bangology, and visit our website, bangology.com. That's BHANGOLGY. So, as we're sitting here, we're talking about CBD, we're talking about cannabis. My very first use of a cannabis product was not a tincture, the oil. It was actually a rub. And this is the rub that we use, that we have in our premium line. It's our pain rub. It's 1,000 milligrams of CBD, 10% emu oil. It's great stuff. Can you talk about that a little bit, Dr. Jarret? Talk about, maybe because people are kind of confused at where they should start. Should I start with the oil? Should I start with the rub? Should I start with gummies? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great question, because one of the things that you have to understand is that with any kind of medication, there are different routes that you can take the medication, and the different ways that you take that medication makes it how it interacts with your body and how you ultimately feel the effects.
Right.
So, for instance, if you take a rub or a cream and put it on top of your skin, maybe over an area where you may have had some pains in your joints or something, that medicine, that rub, takes some time to sink in. And it's not going to be an instant effect. It's not going to be like, when the doctor shoots lidocaine in your mouth and it instantly starts to turn numb. It's going to take some time to work. Same thing is true if you take a gummy and you eat a gummy. Well, that gummy has to be digested in your system. And as it's digested in your system, then and breaks down to smaller components, it's not until then it gets released in your blood as those components of CBD. So it may take a half hour to 45 minutes before you feel the effects there. If you have access to CBD in a vape pen form, well, that's probably the fastest way to get it into your system. That usually is within several minutes, maybe as few as 10 to 15.
Right. And speaking of of vaping, and I don't know if you've been kind of following that. Vaping has been very controversial. Very controversial. I had an opportunity to sit in on a virtual conference where they were talking about vaping and all of that. I learned a lot, but still kind of, for me, it's controversial. So can you talk a little bit about it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the vaping industry is something new. It was brought on to say, well, this is better than smoking cigarettes. It's got to be better for you than cigarettes, because cigarettes cause cancer. It causes too much cancer. And they looked at it and said, well, if we can do this with nicotine products, why can't we do it with any other kind of products? And so the industry kind of started growing at a much more rapid pace than typical. So people would have different kind of pens, and they would work in different kind of ways, and they'd have different heat, and they'd have, burn the oils a little bit differently. And then we started noticing that, well, people were getting sick from vape pens, and
Right.
so what is the deal behind that? And again, it comes back to, well, what kind of actual device were you using, and what was in the container that you had? And they found that a lot of counterfeit and poor quality products out there, CBD and otherwise, had vitamin E mixed with them. And
Wow.
vitamin E should not be inhaled. And when vitamin E is inhaled, it causes a lot of damage to your lungs, which was making people get sick associated with these
Right.
vape pens. So when you're using these things, this is why you want to go to a trusted source. You want to come to somewhere where you can get the information that you need, and you can feel comfortable with that information, rather than just saying, oh, let somebody give you something or try something, and it doesn't work out that way for you. And it could even be dangerous. So
Exactly.
inhalation, especially with the vaping controversy, and of course, there's still scientists trying to figure it out. But when did vape pens come out? They just came out a few years ago. So the research is going to lag before we get some good answers. You may want to consider vaporizing whole flower hemp as
Mm.
an alternative, and that could be something you may consider.
Wow, I love that you said that, because I have, when I started the business, I was like, oh no, absolutely, we're not gonna have any vaping. And then I started learning more about it, and just ran across someone who actually talks about flowers. So we're working to bring him in and talk to the bangologist also. So Dr. Jarret, we got three questions just came in back to back to back. So the first question is, should I discuss the rub with my doctor or only the oral products?
Any would be okay, because although you'll get a lot of metabolism within your skin, and you won't get a lot of the medication in your system, anything that you think is helping your condition would be good to let your doctor know. Because if
Mhm.
if you're using a cream and they say, oh, I want you to use another type of cream, and they don't know you're using the CBD cream, again, it could cause a reaction where they may cancel each other out or make them less effective, or even worse, maybe cause a rash on your skin or something bad like that. So any type of medication, anything that you are putting in or on your body, you should discuss with your physician.
Very good, very good. Number one question: will CBD get me high? Will CBD get me
Great question. Great question. And so there is a lot of confusion between, CBD and what CBD does, and marijuana. And
high?
they all come from the cannabis family of plants. And hemp that is sold in the US is particularly bred, so it has the less than 0.3%
Yeah.
of THC, which is the component that makes you high. So there's virtually zero THC in CBD, which is the component that makes you high. So that, to answer the question in short, no, you're not going to get high from CBD, but you will get relief from a number of different things, because the cannabinoids in CBD, they still work. You don't have to have the THC to go along with it.
Can we back up a little bit? You mentioned this earlier, the endocannabinoid system. So I remember that day, I'm sitting at my doctor, here it is, a whole CBD founder, right? I'm testing products. I've been testing products for months, and now I'm at the doctor, and I want to get shy, and I'm not a shy person. And so, I got a little information under my belt. And so, I let my doctor know, hey, this is what I've done. This is what I've been doing. These are some of the things I've been taking. And he just kind of gave me this nod. And I said, well, are you familiar? And he said, well, I've heard of it. And I said, well, are you familiar with the endocannabinoid system? And he just kind of looked at me. So, can you talk a little bit about that, Dr. Jarret? Not on a high level, but just kind of on a level where we can understand how, when we take these products, they're not just it's not just the latest, greatest, oh, chew these gummies, take this oil, but that it actually is working with our bodies. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, one of the things that we've learned since we have been able to do much more research in this subject, since the late 80s through the 90s, we actually found that there are receptors inside of your body that react specifically to cannabis, just like there are receptors within your body that respond specifically to glucose, which is the sugar in your blood, or specifically to a number of other chemicals. And depending on which chemicals in the body and which receptors those chemicals are hitting, it can make a bad reaction. So maybe if you have uh, ammonia or levels too high of nitrogen or ammonia in your body, that when it hits on those receptors, that's going to be something bad for you. But if you have CBD broken down into the small components, when it hits those receptors within your body, not only in your nervous system, there are receptors in your skin, there are receptors totally throughout your body,
Right.
then some good things can happen. So your body has receptors for a number of different things that your body makes inside of it, like the neurotransmitters or the chemicals that signal different things in your brain. So your body makes those things. Your body makes other hormones. Your body makes other chemicals that it needs. But there are also receptors for things that your body doesn't make, like cannabinoids. And so that's part of the science behind it, that we say, hey, humans, and actually we're finding most mammals or all mammals actually have these receptors, and somehow we were designed to have cannabis somewhere in our bodies.
Wow. And so really it's really getting back to plant-based medicine. It's kind of how I like to it's plant-based
Absolutely.
and I'm glad that you said like all mammals, because here at our bang shop we actually have bang bite chews for your dogs. So so we've got you covered, but we want to make sure that you make sure that the product that you start out with is one that it's well, let's start back up. One, that you're using a premium quality product. And so when I first started my journey, actually, yeah, when I first started my journey, I was ready to venture and use a tincture, which is the oil. Guys, you hear say, "Oh, use the CBD oil." CBD oil. Well, it's actually called a tincture, and I ordered some from Amazon. And Dr. J, and you've heard me tell this story before. I had a really weird reaction. I was having heart palpitations, hot flashes, just everything all at the same time. And I remember going to my doctor, and he sent me to another doctor. And so when I got to that doctor asked me some questions, and he was just going through a lot of things. And then I just kind of happened to mention to him that I tried this CBD. Didn't tell him where I got it from. And he said, "Oh, I am a big proponent of CBD." He told me his fibromyalgia patients use it, rheumatoid arthritis patients use it. He said, "But one thing about it, you got to make sure you're using a quality product. You can't just get it off of Amazon." And I wanted to say, "How'd you know? How'd you know?" Or the gas station, right? And so one of the things that when I started this business, I wanted to make sure that I was sourcing premium quality products. And so my products are going to cost a little bit more than what you find in a gas station, but all parts of them are made in the USA. So there are no parts that are, well, we make this part in the USA, but this part isn't. They've gone through testing and all of that multiple times. And so I think it's really important to start with a quality product first of all. Second of all, it's good to have that conversation with your doctor about how you're using that product, finding that product that's good for you, whether it's a tincture or a rub. I used a rub for quite some time before I decided I want to try the tincture. So, and then keeping, I think, a journal of whatever you decide to use, keeping a journal, keeping a record of what you're using, the dosing of it, and how is it affecting you? So you can have that partnership, as Dr. Jarret mentioned, when you go to your doctor. So let's see, we've got some comments over here.
And I'll just build on that. That's one
Okay.
of the things I tell my patients in my concierge practice. Keep that journal with you. I don't care if it's a spiral notebook or anything. Write down exactly, the kind and what you were taking, and because there's so many things out there, you'll get confused or you'll get lost and you won't know what actually worked the best. So start with taking those premium, quality controlled, tested products, and then keep a list of them so you understand exactly what works for you, and that way you can communicate with your doctor.
Exactly, exactly. So someone says, woohoo, I agree, we were meant to have cannabis. We have a question. What do most doctors say that you cannot use cannabis along with medication? Wouldn't both be beneficial? So do you know kind of off like what medications there's some contraindications for?
Yeah, and it depends on the different ailments, and some of that may just go back to the unfamiliarity of cannabis. Again, most doctors who are out there today were never trained on the science of cannabis. I even asked recent graduates. Even asked people that are resident training doctors right now, and there is just very little of the science that's being taught yet. So just now with these emerging crops of doctors, they're starting to learn a little bit. But for everybody who graduated 5 years or 10 years, 30 years ago, unless they were studying this cannabis as a medication independently, they're just not going to know. And so when they don't know, well, I know I'm giving you a prescription for this pill.
Yeah.
And if something happens while you're taking something else, then it's going to be because of this prescription on the pill. So it does vary. There are some tried and true interactions, but again, that's why you have these conversations with your doctor.
Right. We have another question. What do you think would be the best for a kid that is developmentally delayed and have problems sleeping? We're looking for alternative medicine. He's 9.
Yes. So for these types of indications in pediatrics, right now, there are only extremely specific indications for cannabis in kids, mainly kids that have severe seizure disorders. There are a couple of indications where they can use cannabis as a therapy. Outside of that, the research is so new that there haven't been a lot of controlled studies in children. So the answer ends up in kids. Well, you just don't know. So you kind of hope that CBD would be kind of benign. But when we are talking about a developing brain, when we're talking about developing body parts, right now we don't know all the answers. So that is something that is not recommended by pediatricians at large, and most the American Academy of Pediatrics has put a statement out against it, other than these specific indications. But the good thing is research is going to be ongoing, and you just have to continue to talk with your doctors, or even find doctors that are more knowledgeable in alternative therapies who may be able to help you.
Okay, great. Another big question, will CBD show up on a drug test? Everybody wants to know that. Will CBD show up on a drug test? And so before you answer that, can you answer it within this framework? So there's isolate, and then there's full spectrum. So can you talk about it from that perspective, Dr. Jarret?
Yeah, because when you have a full spectrum product, it may have a full spectrum. So it will have a little bit of all the cannabinoids out there. And when you are thinking about that, there is a possibility, particularly if you're not using a product that has been properly tested or of high quality, there may be more of that THC in that bottle than what it says. And there have been reports that people have tried and true said, no, I have not taken marijuana, but I do take this CBD. And there have been some reports of certain CBD brands making your urine turn positive. So again, it comes from the quality control, the testing control, really from the farm and the plant all the way through the processing, all the way through the testing. That's why this is and should and is considered a medication.
Right. If you're not using a Bangology product, you should definitely request the COAS, which is a certificate of analysis. We also, I just actually had someone ask me for my certificate of analysis, and so that's usually a little scan thing. You can scan it and you can read it if you can understand the language, but it just basically tells you actually what's in that product, as well as it's been tested by a third party. So the manufacturer, they can't say, well, hey, this is our product and we say this is in it. They actually have to send it to a third party and have that tested to prove that what is in that product is in that product. So we have isolate gummies, which is only CBD. And I tell folks, if you are concerned about drug tests or anything, the isolate, which is only CBD, is probably the best place to start. And then we also have full spectrum gummies, which, as Dr. Jarret said, it has all of the cannabinoids. And so we've talked a little bit about THC, we've talked about CBD, but some of the cannabinoids on our line for tinctures, we'll be introducing CBG and CBN. And so those tinctures are more pharmaceutical grade. And so Dr. Jarret, are you familiar with those? Can you speak about those a little bit?
Yeah, and the more the science emerges, the more we find out about these different cannabinoids and understand how they work together and work within your body. And CBG and CBN are two newer ones that we are finding. Hey, if we can isolate them, that these may be closer to what your body needs than something that has a little bit of everything, or something that maybe has some more of a different cannabinoid.
Right.
And so these CBG, CBN, there are others that are being tested and emerging as well. And again, this is why the science is so important, and this is why you have that relationship.
Yeah, exactly. So guys, I know, and I don't have like the full list, but I know CBG is if you struggle with inflammation, pain, CBG is a great product for that. And it's a great, we've got it in a tincture. And CBN is, again, pharmaceutical grade for insomnia. If you need I call it, if you need a real good night's sleep. Like, not you just want to have a good night's sleep, but you need a real good night's sleep. So the CBN is there as well. So let's see these. Okay, so someone just posted they're firing truckers for using CBD, and so again, I know the manufacturer that I work with. I know it's on our labels. A lot of different companies are saying you have to know the laws in your state, know the laws of your job, know the quality of your product. It is so important to know the quality of your product. I was on a webinar maybe 3 weeks ago, and some folks were just saying what you were saying, that they thought they were taking an isolate, which is just CBD, none of the other cannabinoids, but later found out that that company was putting a little bit of everything in there. So you've got to take responsibility and really make sure one, you're using a quality product and know the laws in your state, and find out, should I use a full spectrum over an isolate? And know actually what you're using and what you're taking. Dr. Jarret, do you have time for a couple more questions?
Yeah, sure.
All
Yeah,
right.
and that's the issue with these regulations that are so state independent. Yeah, if you're a commercial driver, then that's kind of governed at a more federal level, and so
Right.
they're not breaking down to, I don't care what it is. We're saying, and I don't care what your state says. If you have this substance in your body, you can't drive your truck. So again, that relationship is important.
Right. And it's really sad, because if someone who's driving, and they are experiencing pain for driving for hours, and they find something that's not getting them high and that's giving them relief, they have to, oh, now I'm putting my livelihood in jeopardy. So it's crazy. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
it's
So the question is, what are some of the things that CBD oil or CBD can help with? And there's a range of things.
oh my goodness. Yeah, and honestly, it can be anything. I mean, the FDA is trying to keep up with what's going on, and they'll officially license it for just a couple of small cases. But if you just go on to Google and search, what CBD will do, you'll get some of the research papers that they're studying it for. I mean, pretty much you name it. They're looking at it now, trying to understand if it works or not. So it's a list that is way too long to go through here. And in fact, in the Pennsylvania, and this is on the medical marijuana side, since it is legal in Pennsylvania, they allow 23 different conditions that marijuana can treat. So thus cannabis is saying, hey, look, if you have any of these 23 conditions, then that could be a therapy that would be beneficial for you. So chances are it will treat and can treat something that you may have.
Right. So do they use the word treat, Dr. Jarret, that marijuana can treat these issues? They actually use
Yes,
the word treat.
they are treating in states that have medical cannabis. They are in most states. Some states are highly restrictive still, but
Right.
most states that have it, they actually want to treat it like a medication.
Yeah.
So it's just like any medication, except you have to go to a different store. In Louisiana, for instance, you actually can go to a regular pharmacy that may carry cannabis as well. So it depends on your state. It depends on how it's run. Out west, a lot of times you'll go into dispensaries to get
Yep.
your products. But it all depends. It all depends on a lot of variables. But again, it's state by state. But you have to keep up with the research.
Right. I know that in Bangology, our clients are the people that we want to serve, are people who experience pain, anxiety, and sleep issues, because CBD may help alleviate some of those symptoms. So our e-commerce won't allow us to use the word treat. Our manufacturer, so we can't use the word treat, because in Georgia, we're not a medical marijuana.
Yeah, you might go to jail down there, Dr.
Right.
Tanya.
So it may help alleviate, and we've got some of our members in the chat. They have used our products, and they know that they work for their particular situations. So I think there was a question. Does CBD cause any side effects or allergic reactions? I know for myself, it makes me really, really sleepy. So it's some tinctures, and I've been testing. I've been testing a lot. So so I was like, wait a minute. But it may make you, really sleepy. I always tell folks, if you're trying it for the first time, take it at night when you don't have to drive, so you can see how how it, whether it's an isolate or a full spectrum, how it will react to your body. Have you heard of any side effects or any um, reactions that people might have to CBD, Dr. Jarret?
Um, no, as far as side effects, yes, as any medication, if you take too much or you're using it in an improper way, yes, there are going to be side effects. Sleepiness or deep
Right.
relaxation is a known side effect. They are studying, effects of all of the cannabinoids on the body, because we know that this is going to be considered across the board someday as a medical treatment. As far as the allergy side of it, well, yes, an allergy can happen to any substance that's brought into the human body. So just because we have receptors doesn't mean that you may not have a theoretical chance of being allergic to it. However, I have not had any cases of that or know of any cases, but people have allergies to the strangest things, which is, again, why you should consider this a medication and use it in conjunction with your physician.
Right. And use it as prescribed. So, I always tell people our gummies are yummy, but you only have two. You're not the gummy bears. You can only have two per day. So if you want to take one in the morning and one at night, but you don't want to overdose on the gummies. You have to, sometimes if I know, because I struggle with sciatica, which is really why I wanted to create this wellness program for people, because people would just take the oil, just throw it at me, but they never really took the time to explain to me the difference between, what is CBD, what is THC. I just thought it was all the same. And here we are 4 years later. And now I'm offering this opportunity to people who want to look at how can I have a different approach to my wellness. So
awesome.
Yeah. So Dr. Jarret, I will let you any closing words you want to leave us with as we wrap this first session out of the Bangology education series, which would you like to have some closing words, some ending words for folks watching tonight?
Yeah, so thank you. And for those that join late, I want to make sure that you understand that if you're looking at CBD as a potential treatment for any number of ailments in your life, approach it as you would any kind of medication. You wouldn't just go meet some random stranger and say they give you 2 pills and say, yeah, those are Tylenol. Go ahead and take 2 of those. Your headache will go away. Mm-hmm. You don't want to do that. You want to go to reliable sources. This is why I'm encouraging all of you to have these conversations with your physician. And your physician may not know everything that there is to know about cannabis, because that's a deficiency in the educational system. Mm-hmm. However, we are in general where we want to learn, and we can learn from you, and particularly if you've done a lot of research. So make sure you're researching, make sure you are using quality products, and make sure you are discussing your therapy with your physician.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Jarret. Thank you so much. So guys, I hope that you enjoyed tonight's talk, our fireside chat with Dr. Jarret Patton, talking to us about how to talk to your doctor about cannabis and CBD and what's right for you and where you should start on this journey. If you are not a part of the Bangology family, go ahead, subscribe to this channel, follow us on all social media. If you want to learn more about our products, visit our website at bangology.com. If you want to learn about becoming a member of the Bangology Cannabis Society, where we bring in experts to talk to our members specifically about how to use these products, how to incorporate them into their life, even how to cook with them, then go to our website, send me a message through the contact form, and I'll be sure to get back with you. And we actually run monthly contests where we give away products. So again, make sure that you're following us on all social media so you don't miss an opportunity to maybe win a premium product, which reminds me, I've got to announce the winner for September. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.